In November 1970, hikers moving through Isdalen, a narrow valley in the mountains above Bergen, Norway, found a woman's body on the rocky ground. Locals called it the Ice Valley. It was a transit route between the city and the mountain above. Few people stopped there long. This woman had stopped permanently. She was lying on her back. Her face and upper body had been badly burned by fire. Scattered around her, sleeping pills, an empty liquor bottle, a fuel canister. Norwegian police arrived, assessed the scene, and began what they expected would be a routine investigation. It was not routine. The woman carried no identification, no documents, no wallet, and on every piece of clothing she wore, the labels had been cut away, not torn, not lost, but deliberately and carefully removed. Not a single tag remained. Investigators circulated her description. They took photographs at the scene. They waited for someone to recognize her. Nobody did. What they discovered in the weeks that followed was that this woman hadn't simply died in obscurity. She had lived in it, moving across Europe under at least 9 constructed identities, staying in hotels under false names, paying in cash, leaving no trail that led back to a real person. In Norway, she is known as Isdalen Kvinne, the Isdal woman. In the international true crime community, she is one of the most extensively studied, unidentified persons in European history. 55 years after her body was found, we still don't know her name. November 29th, 1970, Bergen, Norway. The forensic examination of the scene established several things quickly. The burns were severe and had affected her face and upper body. The fire appeared to have burned at high temperature. Approximately 50 phenobarbital tablets, sleeping pills, were found scattered across the rocky ground nearby. A bottle of liquor, nearly empty. A fuel canister. The autopsy concluded that the cause of death was a combination of carbon monoxide poisoning and phenobarbital intoxication. The fire itself, given the toxicological findings, appeared secondary to those causes. But the forensic examiners also noted bruising on her neck, recorded, filed, but not classified as the primary cause of death. Establishing who she was proved immediately difficult. She appeared to be European, somewhere between 25 and 40 years old, well-groomed. Her teeth showed evidence of regular dental care, consistent with someone who had not lived in poverty, someone with access to health care in a functioning system. But she had no name attached to her. Her clothing yielded nothing. Norwegian police sent appeals out nationally and then internationally. Her description and photographs were circulated. No credible identification came back. Then, within days of the body's discovery, Bergen railway station contacted the police. 2 suitcases had been sitting unclaimed in the left luggage facility. When investigators matched the timing to the woman's likely arrival in Bergen, they went to examine them. What was inside was not what you would expect from an ordinary traveler. The suitcases contained clothing, wigs of different colors and styles, and a collection of travel documents. Across those documents were at least 9 distinct identities, different names, different papers, each set designed to present a different person to a different border official or hotel clerk. Among the names found in the documents, Claudia Tielt, Vera Jarl, and several others, each backed by supporting paperwork, all fabricated. None traceable to a living or previously recorded individual in any European database. There was also a small notebook. Its entries were written in a personal shorthand code, a system apparently developed by the woman herself. Investigators spent considerable time attempting to decode it. What they eventually understood were records of travel, city names, dates, hotel references, abbreviated in a consistent pattern that suggested careful, methodical record-keeping. The decoded entries traced a route across Europe in the months before her death: Belgium, Switzerland, Germany, Italy, and then Norway, Bergen, in the autumn of 1970. She had stayed at several hotels in the city under different names. Staff at more than one of those hotels recognized her photograph when police came to ask. She had paid in cash. She had checked in and out without incident. Then, investigators received something they hadn't expected. A German couple who had visited a scenic area east of Bergen in the weeks before the body was found had photographs from that trip. In the background of one image, a woman in a coat, dark-haired, looking away from the camera. When the tourists saw the police appeal in the media, they came forward. Those two photographs, taken by strangers, of someone who hadn't known she was being photographed, became the only confirmed images of the Isdal woman taken while she was still alive. The photographs were published across Norway. They were shared internationally. No credible identification came in. In 1971, Norwegian police formally closed the case. Official conclusion: suicide. The case remained officially dormant for over 4 decades, known to researchers, referenced in Norwegian press occasionally, but closed. What changed in 2016 was Norwegian state broadcaster NRK. Their investigative team launched a full reinvestigation of the case, working alongside forensic scientists and in collaboration with the BBC, which co-produced a podcast series, Death in Isdalen Valley, that ran in 2017 and 2018. It became one of the most downloaded true crime productions in European broadcast history and brought the case to an international audience that hadn't previously been aware of it. The reinvestigation produced findings that had not been part of the original 1971 conclusions. Most significantly, the burns. Forensic analysis raised the question of whether the fire had been set before or after death. Burn pattern assessment suggested the fire may have been applied post-mortem, meaning someone else could have been at the scene after she died. This was not a definitive conclusion, but it was a professional judgment that shifted the working assumption from probable suicide to suspected homicide among several of the investigators involved. The neck bruising was re-examined. Several forensic reviewers in 2016 considered it more significant than the original autopsy had concluded. DNA was extracted from the woman's teeth and submitted to European databases. A profile was built. No match was returned, not from criminal records, not from genealogical databases, not from any family reference sample. Norwegian authorities agreed to reopen the matter. Kripos, Norway's National Criminal Investigation Service, confirmed the case as active. 3 explanations have dominated the Isdal woman discussion since 1970. Each has evidence in its favor. Each runs into evidence that doesn't fit. The first is espionage. Bergen in 1970 was a NATO city, a strategic port, a naval base, an active intelligence environment. The Cold War was at operational intensity. Multiple intelligence services maintained networks across Western Europe. A woman carrying 9 false identities, a coded travel log, wigs for disguise, operating entirely in cash across 6 countries. The operational profile is consistent with an intelligence courier or asset. Norwegian security services were reportedly consulted during the original investigation. The degree to which they engaged and what they found or knew was never made fully public. That non-disclosure has itself been noted by later investigators as unusual. The second theory places her in organized crime, either as a courier who had become a liability or as someone who had seen too much and was silenced. Under this reading, the scene was staged, the scattered pills, the burned body arranged to suggest self-destruction. The third explanation is that the 1971 conclusion was correct, that she was a mentally ill woman who had constructed elaborate false identities not as professional cover, but as a response to a psychiatric condition, paranoia perhaps, or a dissociative disorder. Under this theory, she ended her life in the Isdalen Valley for reasons that had nothing to do with espionage or crime. The problem is that none of these explanations holds cleanly. The espionage theory requires believing that some agency has known who she was for 55 years and chosen silence over clarity, even long after any operational sensitivity would have expired. The staged homicide theory has the burn evidence, but not a cause of death that definitively rules out what the toxicology reported. The suicide theory has the official conclusion, but doesn't account cleanly for the neck bruising or for the question of why someone who intended to die in that valley would have needed to carefully cut every label from every garment she owned. As of 2025, the Isdal woman remains unidentified. She is buried in Møllendal Cemetery in Bergen. Her gravestone reads, Ukjent Kvinne, unknown woman. The grave is maintained by the city. Norwegian authorities have confirmed the case remains open. Genealogical DNA investigation, the technique that gave the Somerton man a name and identified the boy in the box, is being considered as the next viable path to establishing who she was. No match has yet been found. What stays with you about this case is not just the mystery of her death. It is the precision of the erasure she had put in place, or that someone had put in place before she reached that valley. 9 identities, every label cut from every garment, cash only, a code only she could read. She had made herself disappear while she was still alive. For 55 years after she died, it held. The question the Isdal case leaves open is not only who she was, it is whether that invisibility was something she chose, or something that was chosen for her. Case Dormant. The next file is open. Subscribe so it finds you.